Shalom Miriam, it's a pleasure to welcome you. Shalom, do come in.
Thank you so much for
Nice to have you here at St. John's Wood Synagogue.
Thank you so much.
This project about Rabbi Sachs is very exciting.
Yes.
For me personally and for our community. He lived locally, so this was his Bet Knesset where he used to come on Shabbat. You'll find in the archives pictures of Rabbi Sachs out here in this courtyard with Rabbi Mervis when Rabbi Mervis was being installed as Chief Rabbi Sachs' successor. On that occasion we were joined by the then Prince Charles, now King Charles, and he came to the synagogue on that occasion. Let me show you where Rabbi Sachs would sit. He had his makom kavua. In the weeks after he died, I was just looking inside here and I found notes of drashot. He had a very dramatic delivery. He was always exciting and passionate when he spoke. And sometimes we realized that, this is probably the first draft of a major presentation he's going to be giving, a speech elsewhere. And so it was a big zechut for us. One of the features of Rabbi Sachs when he gave a drasha is that his talit was always nearly falling off.
What do you see as some of the main values that he was trying to put forward in his years as Chief Rabbi?
He in himself was a broadly tolerant person. He was full of ideas, and he felt that so much could be achieved by education, and he wanted to communicate those values wherever he could. And he also did so with a passion, and he wanted to get people excited by education. Prayer could be such a powerful experience if it's made more accessible. And he decided to produce a new translation with a wonderful introduction to prayer that just makes it, as I say, very accessible for people.
I think it's a lesser known essay, the introduction to the Siddur, that's incredibly profound.
It is. I was always familiar with Rabbi Sachs, the philosopher, the scholar. But here I saw a man of deep prayer, deep spirituality, for whom these prayers were so important, and he found so important to be able to communicate that in contemporary language. You take his summary or explanation of Al-Chet to the back of the Yom Kippur Machzor. He puts it in terms that people can connect to, and you see contemporary examples of what our failings are rather than expressed in archaic language. And that was his brilliance, that was his gift. Phrase like, just so simple, thank before you think. To encapsulate moda ani lefanecha. The first thing you do in the morning, just thank before you think. It's so simple, but nevertheless it encapsulates so much.
And building on those translations and commentaries on the Siddur and the Machzor, one of the mammoth tasks that he undertook was the translation and commentary of the Tanakh.
His passion was to be able to do a commentary on the Chumash. So he completed the translation before he passed away, and he was about to start doing the commentary to the Chumash, a fresh work. But sadly, he passed away before he was able to get further with that. But what has happened, and and I'm very excited about it, is that Koren Publishers have got a group of scholars who are combing through his writings to be able to extract from all the essays that he's written on the Chumash for many years and the Covenant of Conversation, a commentary. And I've been shown various components, and please God that will come out as a Sachs Chumash where you'll see a digest of many of the ideas you have in the weekly essays, but accompanying the weekly parasha. And we look very excited to look forward to that, to having that in our synagogues as a successor to the old Hertz Chumash. And I think that will certainly guarantee a longevity to his ideas in the community.
So you mentioned the Parashat HaShavua. What do you think is so compelling about the Parashat HaShavua?
He read very widely. I mean, he would read a book a day. It's quite phenomenal. But he would read a book, but not just read it, you'd be able to digest it and apply it.
Bishvili Gan Eden Ze Sifriya. What do Jews do at this time of the year? We say, Katvenu b'Sefer HaChaim. Writers in the book of life. When Jews think of life, they think of a book. That is what we're about.
He was very, very wide-ranging in his interests, whether it was sociology, anthropology, neuroscience, psychology, management studies, etc. And he was able to draw from all these disciplines an idea. So he would like to shine the light of Chokhmah onto Torah, and the light of Torah onto Chokhmah. And so if he was, analysing an episode in the life of Yosef, or he's looking at the life of Moshe Rabbeinu, he would just use terms that he would be able to bring from studies in psychology, or bereavement, or grief, or management studies, to be able to reframe and to better explain what's going on in Chumash.
Mm. Can you give any examples?
We read about the trumpets that Moshe Rabbeinu is required to make, the silver trumpets, and it's to gather the Eidah, the community, and for the Machaneh to journey forward. So Rabbi Sachs draws on an idea of Rav Soloveitchik that we see ourselves in two ways. We see ourselves as a machaneh, as a camp, where you defensively come together because of what outsiders are doing to you. So we became a camp of people in Egypt as a result of our slavery, and we've had to identify as a people who've been attacked from the outside so often in our history. At the same time, we are an Eidah. An Eidah is a congregation, a community, where we are aspiring to project ideas outward. And Rav Soloveitchik famously talked about Brit Goral and Brit Yud. So the covenant of fate is as a result of what others do to us, and the covenant of destiny is what we will do taking forward to be an Eidah, to be an example, a role model as a Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, as a role model to others. And I feel that had Jonathan Sachs been speaking in today's terms with what's going on in Gaza, that would have been an idea he would have articulated, in that the Jewish people is suffering collectively with all of Israel under the present time, and we are that machaneh, that camp that's all closed in, identifying and supporting one another. At the same time, there is a positive identity that we have to express in what our values are, and to be a role model to others, to stand up for our values of tolerance, of understanding, of appreciating their suffering everywhere, and show that we're striving to do all we can for peace. Mm-hmm. You could take an idea, whether it's from Hirsch or the Rambam or Yehuda Halevi, but just cast it in language that was so inclusive. And you didn't feel it was parochial. So whether you were Jewish or you weren't Jewish, you felt he had something to say to you. Mm-hmm. And that was a remarkable gift. He was always ready to learn. And he said, good leaders create followers, but great leaders create other leaders. Mm-hmm. And that was something that he felt passionate about. And I think, Miriam, you're a personal example of that. And you've been a Sachs scholar this past year. And the Sachs Foundation, in wanting to take further the work that he started, has, as you know, created a cohort of leading of scholars, educators, academics who are passionate about Rabbi Sachs's ideas and will take them further in the community, as in fact you're doing with this particular program. Those are the things that were very special to him, and I'm sure he'd be very proud of.
Yeah, thank you. I think, that idea very much, the letter and the scroll is something that, I think he imparted to me personally, and to us as a cohort of Sachs scholars, where he kind of empowered each of us to go to take our own path, to kind of forge our own destinies, I suppose, in terms of what we would do, what we would kind of go on to do with Torah leadership.
Yes. In
our respective fields, in academia, in education, and so on. And I do think, we kind of, many of us believe that we're part of that legacy, part of the letter and the scroll.
He inspired great scholars around the world with deep philosophical ideas, but he was so relatable. When I came to this community and he was the chief rabbi, he'd give out sweets to children. And he once said, and my induction, he says, when I'm gone, I don't want to be remembered for the books. I want to be remembered as the rabbi who gave sweets to children.
Wow. Diane Bינשטוק, it's been a real honour to be invited here to St John's Wood Synagogue, and an honour to have you interviewed for us. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, and I wish your project every success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.